You finish fast like that.
A very good day to you. I hope you had yourself an amazing day. This is the Black Hot Fire update, the middle of the 21st century. Apologies for starting the show late. I was caught up in something. It is the 5th of November 2024, 1948 East African time. And of course, I'm here to tell you about each and everything that was making headlines in Africa today. We're going to be looking at Kenya, we're going to be looking at the DRC, we're going to be looking at the US elections which are happening. And I'm here for the next couple of minutes before Joby and Kamlesh come in, of course, with their show. My main focus of the day will be the monkeypox case in Kenya. And the Ministry of Health is now claiming that there are more than.
It's important to note of the.
Let's watch this video so that I can come and explain.
It's important to note of the advisory that we gave the other day on the monkeypox, that is mpox. I know the Ministry of Health, through my office, we were able to give an advisory in regards to the patient who was detected at Taita Taveta border. And we have been able to isolate this patient after testing. We are yet to confirm how many people he was with. So we have deployed our health teams to Taita Taveta for the response. And we are doing what we call contact tracing and more surveillance. We have enhanced on surveillance. But even in itself, by the virtue that our teams were able to detect this, it shows you how much enhancement we have done at the border. Our port health officers in all the 32 points of entry are well trained, and we are able to monitor any kind of outbreak that may be at the border level.
So that is the Ministry of Health claiming that, more cases of monkeypox have been found in Kenya. And the WHO, by the way, said that it has allocated almost 1 million monkeypox vaccines to Africa. Among them, Kenya is going to receive more than 100,000 doses of the same. 1 million monkeypox vaccines have been allocated to Africa. The disease has not been here for that long, but in as much as they do not really care about Africa in any other way, like I always say, Africa might be burning or any other thing might be happening in Africa and nobody's going to care about the same. But when it comes to vaccines, if there is one thing that they never delay in delivering, it's vaccines. And now the WHO has sent 1 million doses of monkeypox vaccines to countries in Africa, to 9 countries in Africa. This is after the African CDC, Center for Disease Control, declared monkeypox a global emergency, and especially in Africa. So far, more than 50,000 people have been vaccinated against monkeypox in DRC alone. And the WHO Director General, his name is Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the one who said that thanks to the donation from the United States and the European Commission, more than 50,000 people have already been vaccinated in DRC alone. The African CDC says that more than 500 that the monkeypox cases have increased by more than 500%, and now the monkeypox is impacting at least 19 countries. So they declared if you can remember, they already declared monkeypox a global emergency, and asked that everybody put aside some donations in order to help with the vaccination process in Africa. In Rwanda, they are claiming there's another virus, the Marburg virus, which they say is in the same family as one disease that really, really disturbs Ugandans. It's called the Ebola virus. So now the Marburg virus that they claim is in Rwanda, the funny thing is the deadly Marburg virus was supposed to kill so many people and which was supposed to be notoriously fatal has not had any effect. A little over a month ago, that is when Rwandan officials announced the country's first Marburg outbreak. And they said it's a very nasty disease, a cousin to Ebola. And the fatality rate can be as high as 88%. But this past week, how many people have died so far? They're saying the fatality rate is at around 20%. That is the number of people who have died. And I saw some scientists, of course, from the World Health Organization, trying to explain on why they were saying that it's very uncommon, and the Rwandanese fatality rate is the lowest ever recorded from the Marburg virus, because they expect the fatality rate to be as high as 88%. That means out of every 10 people who get the virus, 9 are going to die. 88 is 90, so at least 9 out of 10 people die from the disease. However, from the statistics that we have, that they have, that showing that the number of people who have died from the disease is actually very low. The fatality rate is about 2 out of 10 people, 22%. So they're saying 15 of the 66 patients are the only ones who died. And some of the recoveries have been very impressive. For example, 2 patients who are suffering from multiple organ failures and on life support have recovered. So that, of course, is a blow, because the original goal is to drive as many vaccines to Africa as possible, because the Marburg virus vaccine had already been taken to Africa, and they had already started administering the same to the Rwandanese people. They say even now the WHO still continues to say the outbreak isn't over yet, and the country's effort to contain the Marburg virus might not be successful. So they are still calling for vaccination, even though the fatality rate is lower than they expected it to be. They thought it was going to be a really the way they had uh, branded it. It looked like it was going to be to kill so many people. However, it's 3 weeks since we had the last Marburg death. 3 weeks in Rwanda, and yet they claim it's a very fatal uh, disease that needs vaccination. It's a cousin to Ebola. If you've seen Ebola, if you've seen how Ebola, the image, I've never seen an Ebola patient in real life, but I've seen an Ebola patient on TV. If you see how they portray it, it's a bad disease. People bleeding from all over. It always affects Uganda. Let me show you. It always affects Uganda. It's always in Uganda, and you'll see the way you treated by masked people in, and the fact that, so here's how Ebola looks like. And so when they say that Marburg is a cousin to Ebola, everybody in Rwanda was, of course, bought the fear, and that is the reason why, even for the vaccination campaign, I'm sure most of them went to be vaccinated, because if you've seen videos of Ebola, it's not a disease you want to have. And now they're claiming it's a cousin to Ebola, even worse. They said it's going to be worse than Ebola. So now, of course, people ran to the vaccination centers in order to get vaccinated against the same. However, people are starting to see that this disease that they claim to be so fatal and so dangerous has not even killed anyone yet. 3 weeks since we had the last death from the same.
An outbreak of Ebola has been declared in Uganda after the relatively rare Sudan strain was discovered after a decade, according to the WHO. A 24-year-old man in Uganda's Mubende district showed symptoms like high fever, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and later died. He had initially been diagnosed and treated for malaria. The Ebola virus is often fatal if untreated. It first appeared in 1976 in 2 simultaneous outbreaks in Nazara, South Sudan, and the other in Yambuku, DRC. The latter occurred in a village near the Ebola River, from which the disease takes its name. There have only been 7 outbreaks of Ebola before this, 4 in Uganda and 3 in Sudan. The 2014-2016 outbreak in West Africa was the largest Ebola outbreak since the virus was discovered in 1976. The outbreak started in Guinea and then moved across land borders to Sierra Leone and Liberia. WHO is helping Uganda offer healthcare to the 8 suspected cases and
Yet,
investigate
in all those outbreaks and all those cases, you'll see a common factor.
in the affected area. The last Sudan strain was reported in 2012 when 17 out of the 24 reported cases died, and the Zaire strain was reported in 2019. Uganda has experienced 4 Ebola outbreaks, with the one in 2000 being most deadly. It killed over 200 people. Uganda's neighboring country, Congo, is experiencing a resurgence of Ebola following the viral outbreaks this year. Ring vaccination of high risk people with Ervebo vaccine has controlled the spread of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of the Congo during recent outbreaks. But this vaccine has only been approved to protect against the Zaire strain. Another vaccine produced by Johnson & Johnson may be effective but has yet to be specifically tested against the Sudan strain of Ebola.
So this is the disease that they claim Marburg is coming to be worse than, and of course that is why most people panicked and went to be vaccinated. Now people in Rwanda, I don't know, man. I weep for them because now with the neighboring DRC having the outbreak of the monkeypox, and now the vaccines are being administered in DRC and of course in Rwanda too. So Rwandans is getting the monkeypox vaccine injected into them, the Marburg virus vaccine injected into them, and of course the other many vaccines that we've normalized. There are so many other vaccines that we've already normalized. The BCG, the poliomyelitis, there are so many vaccines that uh, our children have to get administered into them even as they grow up. So now at that, probably you got a COVID vaccine, add the COVID vaccine in there, the Marburg vaccine in there, the monkeypox vaccine in there, add the GMO food that is getting pushed into Africans in there. And what you have is what is happening in countries like Japan. You'll have a declining population. Have a declining population, a dying population, an aging population. You can call it any word. I like calling it a declining population because that's what it is. What you have is a population that does not grow. The number of deaths out is more than the number of births. So your population is not increasing. It's not even stagnant. It's decreasing. You have an aging population because the number of people getting old is more than the number of people getting born. So you look at the mean age, the average age of people in a country, and it's 50, 60. Well, you might ask, why is that a problem when you have an aging population? Most of the people in an aging population, let's look at Japan as a case study, are non-productive. 70, 80-year-olds don't go for 8 to 5. You don't expect an 80-year-old to work in an industry. You don't expect an 80-year-old to work in a power line. So the productivity level of the country, of course, the productivity is going to go down massively on condition that young people are more energetic and productive, innovative. And so due to the fact that they are more productive, it is desirable for any country to have a young population. Once it has a young population, then it's more likely to overproduce, actually, not just produce. And that is why you're seeing the problems that we have in Africa with the uprisings such as the one that happened in Nigeria, where even kids were arrested. We had children getting arrested in Nigeria. You look at what happened in Kenya the other day, in Senegal, and they were trying to kick out that other president. What has been happening in Burkina Faso? What has been happening in Mali and Niger? What has been happening in Tanzania? What has been happening in Mozambique? In all those countries, it is as a result of having a youthful population, meaning the average age of people in that country is maybe less than 40. So they're very energetic. And the moment they're I don't know if there's ever been a revolution that happened in a country that had an aging population. I've not looked into that, but I highly doubt. An aging population comes with some level of comfort because now the people they are old already. They don't have nothing to lose as much. They really don't care about the corruption happening. They really don't care about a better future. A better future. They are dying in the next 10, 20 years. He's 80. Why would he care about a better future? But when you have a young population like we have in Africa at the moment, then it's a very hard population to deal with because it's a population that is energetic, that is innovative, and that is smart and intellectual. If you do not have something to contain the three things, then you have a problem growing up. If you don't have anything for them to contain their energy, they are energetic, but they are not jobs. So how will they direct their energy? crime. That is why we have all those uprisings coming up. I mean, I'm energetic and idle. I have all day. I'm losing nothing. So if you say we're going to the streets tomorrow, we're going to the streets. Not like I have somewhere else to be, you know. So when you have a young population that is especially has been put in poverty, that is also smart, that can see through the lies, with the older generation, it's so easy to lie to them. The 80, 70-year-olds, it's so easy for you to lie to them. They've grown up in lies. Their whole life has been a lie anyway. It won't be like an addition. It's not something that they are not used to. So it's so easy to lie to them. It's so easy to give them fake promises, even as a politician, to tell them that I'm going to do this, and then you don't do it. They really won't care. They've been lied to their whole life. That's, you know, they have a high level of tolerance. So political tolerance, tolerance to nobody's nobody's accountable for anything. But with the younger population, we have a younger population, they are energetic, they are intellectual, they are smart. They are going to put you into account. You said you're going to do this, why have you not done it? You promised this and this and this. Why have you not delivered this and this and this? We want jobs. We want a better Africa for all of us. We want a renaissance. We want something better than what our parents had. And that is a very dangerous thing to have. And when that happens in the biggest continent in the world, in the most, with more than a billion people, the numbers might be more, probably more, but with so many of us, and the problem is, the challenge is, we are not a dying, we're not a declining, we're not an aging population. So when you have a billion people put in poverty, getting nuancy, learning, energetic, idle, that's not something desirable for a system that is based on control and manipulation. Because these ones you can't easily manipulate. These ones, they do not have anything to lose. These ones have all the time in the world. And so it's a realization that the system might not function for too long in the current architecture. It might not function for too long in the current architecture. The uprisings and everything. For example, right now it's so hard for you to steal an election in Africa. The people hate politicians. If you steal an election, they are coming out in the streets. Look at the post-election. We've had about 3-4 post-election violences in Africa. The past 1 month, we had a post-election violence in Mozambique. I might be wrong. Was it in Mozambique? I guess it was in Mozambique. Yep. Up to this point in Mozambique, the police are shooting and killing Mozambique protesters. Apart from that, Mozambique has done a social media restriction. There's no social media there at the moment. They've done a social media restriction because of the tensions that are happening there. So you see, it's a very hard population to contain. Nobody wants that type of a population when you want to control a people. So you do everything possible to make sure that the population you want to control is not of that demographic. It's a very hard demographic to deal with. So you want to get rid of them. You want to have a population that is aging, that is non-troublesome, And so what happens is now, with that, and of course the fact that, Africans are, the birth rate in Africa is crazy, man. My grandfather had how many kids? 14. My dad had 5. So between my grandfather and my dad, there are 19 kids. Between those two men had 19 children. So the birth rate is crazy, man. And at that time there was not even like that good of a healthcare. My grandmother probably gave birth to all the 14 at home without going to the hospital. Probably 100% can guarantee you it was a midwife who did that, a traditional midwife. That woman did not go to a hospital, trust me. And she had 14 kids, healthy ones. So the birth rate is crazy. If you leave them to be, they're going to multiply and they're going to become more, and they're going to have an even more youthful population, and they're going to, of course, cause more trouble. And of course, the system is going to fail, it's going to fall. and the system is so dependent on Africa. So Africa is a place that they can't joke around with, and of course they have to make sure that it is under control as much as they want it to be. And so I'm not insinuating anything. All I'm saying is connect the dots between the fact that this is happening and this is happening here. It's up to you. The fact that we're having all these vaccines getting pushed to us, we're having, I don't know, all these viruses coming up every now and then. They're almost running out of names. I mean, what virus? Every month we're having this new virus coming up that needs this new vaccine. And all these good countries with their good philanthropist hearts are donating hundreds of thousands of doses of vaccines to us, and we receive the vaccines and we thank them and we take the vaccines because apparently they really care about us and they don't want us dying. Yeah, they really care about Africa. That's why they even had the Berlin conference, because they really cared about Africa and they were partitioning it so that Africa can benefit from the colonization, because the colonization was meant to help us. So we naively believe that the same people who maimed and killed our ancestors in Congo and in Kenya and in Tanzania and in Zimbabwe and in Nigeria and in Central African Republic are the same people coming to help us with their love and goodies and vaccines and donations and loans and money, and we take it with open arms and we give it to our people. And our people are ignorant. Do I blame them? No, most of them have been kept ignorant. However, we even have some educated fools, and majority of them are, because it's the doctors who we took to school, the ignorant parents took their kids to school because they wanted them to get knowledge. I mean, for them it was too late. They never got the formal education. And so they invested. Most of the people you see, their parents invested in the education. Lands, pieces of lands were sold, and it was a struggle for most of the educated people, especially at the moment in Kenya, for them to learn. Because most of the people we have, most of the professors, the doctors we have, studied in the 80s and the 90s. It was a very hard period for Kenya then. Kenya was still fighting for multi-party democracy. Then a country fighting for multi-party democracy is a messed up country. Trust me. If you're still talking about how many parties you're going to have, you don't expect that country to have anything of a GDP or anything of substantial value in terms of its standards of living. So most of those people studied under very hard conditions, and then they're the same educated fools who come back to the parents that educated them so that they cannot be as ignorant as them, but now they come back educated but more ignorant. And they tell them that these vaccines are good. Why? Because they were given to us by the white man, and the white man loves us so much. That is why he colonized us for years and killed and maimed and colonizes us to death because he loves us so much. So take these vaccines that he gave you. No, we're not going to take it to the lab. We're not going to confirm what is in the vaccine. There's no need. I mean, it was given to us by a very good person. So the same educated fools feed it to their parents and their families and their relatives and their community and their villages. And because apparently this is our son whom we educated and took to school, and he's now a doctor in a hospital in Nairobi, and he says the vaccine is safe, so we take it. It's not a lie. That is how 100,000 people in Congo have been vaccinated so far. In Kenya, 100,000 vaccines arrived. The other day they were vaccinating cows against what, I don't know. Apparently they were vaccinating cattle the other day, and hundreds of thousands of herds of cattle were vaccinated in Kenya. If you're enjoying beef from Kenya, it's probably from a vaccinated cow, vaccinated cattle. And the people who do not really care about, we have wars, we can have floods, we can have whatever, nobody's going to come in. But when it comes to vaccines and medicines and drugs, well, there now we have a conversation. A certain Kenyan cabinet secretary was talking about how they were mistreated. He felt demeaned and he went to the IMF to ask for a loan because they were told to line up on the corridors and they would be called one by one like school kids inside, and then they would be like Kenya coming, Nigeria is like school kids. That is when you're going to look for loans, but when it's them bringing the vaccines to us, they're the ones who come to us with their hands open, and all of a sudden they're kind and warm and they want to help us. And in our naivety, ignorance, lack of knowledge, we buy the lies. So what happened? We're starting to get diseases we never had. The food system is messed up from the source upwards. The whole supply chain is messed up. I mean, food is messed up at the farm. If it's not messed up at the farm, it is messed up when getting processed. That is why now I can buy milk that lasts for 90 days. In what world does milk last for 90 days? Processed milk, I mean. In what world does milk that has bacteria inside that are supposed to break down the lactose within days, within 2 days, the milk should have gone bad, but now I can have milk for 90 days. So the food system is messed up from the source. If that cattle was not vaccinated when it was in the farm, then it's probably the milk went and got processed by so many additives and chemicals, and some of them not so good to our health, most of them. Well, let's say I don't drink milk like a kid. I decide I'm going to enjoy beef. The cattle, from the moment it was a calf, has been ingested with venomous drugs and medicines and vaccines. And by the time it gets to the supermarket shelf, more and more is added to it. That's why meat in a supermarket shelf can last for I don't know how many days. And you wonder, not even flies can land on that piece of meat. You go to a supermarket, not even flies can land on that meat. It's clean, not even a single fly. Because what you're taking is not even food, it's toxins. You're just taking toxins inside your body. So the food system is messed up. And what you have in Africa is now starting to see diseases that we never had. Now, all of a sudden, everybody has cancer. I don't know. Cancer of everything, cancer of the world. Now, there are all these lifestyle diseases all over. Now, everybody is getting treated for even bacteria that nobody should be treated. You now have, they tried to put my dad on H. pylori medicine the other day. H. pylori, who even gets treated for H. pylori? H. pylori is a bacteria that has lived with man for, I don't know, 4,000 years or more. 20,000. H. pylori is a normal bacteria that should be, that every human being has lived with. How do you get treated for a normal occurring bacteria in your body? It's just that you have upset the bacteria through the food you take. You're taking food that is not even right for you. And so the bacteria gets upset, and of course, you start having problems. So what do? Do you treat the bacteria, or do you treat the food that you're taking that is upsetting the bacteria? It's you have diarrhea, but you, in your knowledge of or lack of it, decide that the best way to cure this diarrhea is by stitching your anus. That is what happens. So we stitch our anus in treating diarrhea, because now we have medical institutions operating on profit basis, feeding our kids and our parents and our grandparents with drugs after drugs for diseases that do not exist. I'll go to a hospital right now, healthy as I am, and they're going to find 15 diseases in me. They're going to tell me I have, I don't know, ADHD. Who gets treated? Anyway, they're going to give me like 15 diseases and they're going to treat me for each. And so, is the plan working? I think it is, because most of us are still ignorant, and the ones who are not, who are educated, are still ignorant. We have literate fools. And it's a dangerous thing to have a literate fool. An illiterate fool is better. That one you know. But these other ones that are stupid but educated, and they talk in big English, and they can't even explain to their parents what is happening, and the fact that the food they are eating, and the fact that the vaccines, the new vaccines that are being brought, and the fact that, you know. And a big shout out to Digital Mosquitoes join me. And there's Joby and Kamlesh come up in a bit. Has been the Black Hot Fire Tuesday updates. We were looking into Africa today, and I was talking about the monkeypox vaccines. 1 million doses have been sent to Africa, 100,000 have been sent to Kenya, 60,000 has already been administered on Congolese people. In Rwanda, they're being fed with the Marburg virus vaccine. I was to travel to Rwanda, and they told me I had to get a a yellow fever vaccine. Bro, I don't even know what yellow fever is, but apparently I have to get a yellow fever vaccine in order for me to cross over to Rwanda. And guess what? They told me I could get it for free. All I needed was a certificate. So they give me that vaccine, and they're going to give me a certificate. I don't know what yellow fever is, but I can't cross over to Rwanda without one. Same as COVID, I can't travel anywhere without a COVID vaccine. Unless I buy the certificate, which I will. Anyway, ask yourself why in a continent that nothing works, not the roads, not the governments, nothing works. But one thing that never fails, one thing that is never out of stock, vaccines. Enjoy the rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen. See you tomorrow on Tubongi and later on the Black Hot Fire updates. Much love.